Try this one more time. Hi, I'm Jennifer Cotney. I'm the Assistant Director of Christian Mix 106, and I'm here with my friend,
Tamara L.
She is a special needs mom just like me, and she also happens to be a St. Michael parent. Today, I'm going to ask Tamara to share with us a little bit about her experience, both as a special needs parent and as a St. Michael parent. So Tamara, why don't you tell us a little bit about the diagnosis and some of the challenges that you have faced as a special needs parent?
Okay, I have two children that have special needs. They are both diagnosed with autism and Down syndrome. Lauren also has global behavioral issues as well. Their names are Logan and Lauren. And no, they're not twins, like everybody always likes to ask. But they both have the special needs, and it has been a big challenge for me because number one, I'm an older mom, and I had the two of them when I was in my 40s, and I guess that for me creates some challenges because as a younger person, I was able to do a lot more with my older child. I have a 35-year-old child as well too, but she's not special needs. She's a typical, and so I was able to do a lot more with her that I discovered that it was harder for me to do with my two youngest because age plays a factor in a lot of those things, and of course working at the time too. But having to learn how to be a special needs parent, that was one of the difficulties for me because
there's no handbook.
No, yeah, true. I've seen people dealing with special needs kids, but it just wasn't the same as if doing it yourself. And they're both like one extreme to the other. Yep. Logan has a lot of difficulties, and he needs a lot of hand-over-hand help. He's more dependent. Lauren, on the other hand, she's a lot more high functioning than him. She could probably be in an inclusive classroom to some extent, but not really. But she's more high functioning. She reads a lot better. She has some comprehension of things, whereas Logan basically he has a lot more difficulty. That's hard for me. Also, trying to get them to do basic things, and the time factor is a big one for me because between the two of them, Lauren requires supervision, but Logan requires total hand-on-hand stuff. Right. So it makes it difficult to get places on time, which can be frustrating for me. It's also difficult because I have to do so much, and the older I'm getting, it's getting a lot harder because I'm not moving as fast, and of course I've had my own health issues that I'm dealing with. So that's been a big problem for me in terms of working with my children, and sometimes I feel kind of inadequate.
Oh, you shouldn't feel inadequate. That's why it's so important that we have each other for support, and that this St. Michael community is here, is because I get a lot of support from this community. We've talked about some of the health struggles that I've been going through, and you've shared your testimony with me, and we have seen a tremendous outpouring of support from parents who understand what we're going through, and they understand our challenges better. And we also have talked about how, all of these children, they're neurodivergent. So on the spectrum, there's so many different levels of ability and need and possibilities. And as parents, our goal, especially as we age, is to make sure that our children are going to be fully independent as much as they possibly can. That minimizes the risk of them becoming victims to scammers in adulthood, and then, we always worry about what would happen in the world.
Right.
And all the things that go wrong. So the more we can equip them now, at this age, to be prepared for some sort of independence, the better off we are. And that's one of the things that we know for a fact that they're learning at St. Michael, both of us having older children in the upper school program, which is one of the adult programs. It's the high school version, and then there are two adult programs after that. But each one of these is tailor-made for the ability level, and they meet your child where they are, and each individual child's goals and their growth process is tracked towards achieving these goals that we set for our expectations. Now that we've gone about that, I want to know, how did you hear about St. Michael, and is that what brought you to New Orleans?
Partially. My family is here, and my children and I were living in Pittsburgh at the time, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Both my children were born and raised there, and everybody on their dad's side of the family had passed away. There was no one up there for us. And we did have our church support group and stuff like that, but it wasn't the same thing as family. And because as I started getting older, I was more concerned about them being with family members if anything should happen to me,
and having a relationship with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Because coming down every couple of years to me is not really a relationship. So it became important. So that was my biggest concern about what I was going to do with them when I got down here, because there were plenty of nice, really good services in Pittsburgh that I was really afraid to leave because I had them in so many programs. But my mother used to work for a lawyer that was a patron of St. Michael's. She was a big contributor. And so my mother mentioned the school to me. So we came down on a visit, and we came to the school, and I, checked the school out, talked to everybody in here, took my children around. And I was really pleased at how easily Lauren just assimilated into, and she's my social butterfly, so that happens. She just assimilated herself into the group that she would have been in had she been down here. And I saw how welcoming everybody was. And even with my son, I mean, Logan wasn't very verbal. He was totally nonverbal. But everybody was so kind and friendly towards him, and it seemed to draw him out a lot more. I felt really comfortable, so, of course I applied, and Lauren got in immediately. So when we came down, this was January of 2019 we came down. Lauren went right into the upper school program. There was an opening for her. Logan was still in lower school, and there wasn't a space for him. He had to wait till September. But the very next week, Lauren came home, and she knew everybody's birthdays. She knew everybody in school.
It's such a family here.
Oh, yes. And everybody was so kind and accommodating. And whenever I would drop Lauren off, they would always greet Logan. Hi, Logan. We can't wait for you to come in the fall. So, it kind of got to him because he's really kind of
anxious.
He's anxious about new experiences, but because we kept coming here and dropping her off for so long, it was a comfortable thing for him. So his first day, he got right on out.
It was very similar with Evan. My oldest, Kalijah, was here for about a year, maybe I think it was 2 years that Kalijah was a student. And then when Evan came, we'd been dropping Kalijah off. He already knew a lot of his brother's friends, and they knew him, and it was just a really easy way for him to just kind of slip right in.
Right.
And what was funny is Kalijah was also nonverbal. He was nonverbal until the age of 6, and he is kind of a serious personality. He observes everything, and he's very cautious before he gets involved and opens up. But really, from day one, being here, he's just blossomed, and he's turned into such a leader. And all of these qualities, they're already there. Our kids already have them. But as moms, we only do so much as far as our ability to nurture that out, and the difference with people who are trained, and this is their career and their passion of what they choose to do, how they choose to serve. It really is a huge life-changing difference for families like ours to have access to a program like this. I would ask you, how do you feel that being a part of St. Michael and what your children have received here, how do you feel that has changed what you view for their futures?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't have as many fears as I did before, because I've noticed, especially with Logan. Logan is still considered diagnostically nonverbal, but he actually talks a lot more now. He talks more at school than he does at home, so I understand. He's a little stinker, I'm telling you. But he's also become pretty much like the class clown. He has discovered that he loves making people laugh. The problem is that once he discovers he can make you laugh, he's going to keep doing the same
Yes.
thing over. But I get that he's doing something and he's enjoying himself. He has friends. Everybody knows him. You bring him to school, and there's always hi Logan, hi Logan, hi Logan. And
he does have an infectious joy.
and when he laughs too, his laugh just makes everyone want to laugh as well too. Now, Lauren, on the other hand, Lauren has always had this. Well, I like to call it leadership capabilities.
Yes.
But she likes to boss her brother around. She loves to tell people what to do. We would go to the playground and she would tell other kids how to play.
She's going to be a great manager.
Yeah, she always did that. Even here, though, sometimes she was butting heads with one girl at one time because, well, she was always trying to tell her how to do things. And she would tell her, beat it, Lauren.
That's another thing I love about these kids. They will absolutely use their words. They will use their voices, and they will tell you exactly what they're thinking.
Exactly. So Lauren came home crying that day.
A little humbling.
She told me to beat it, Mommy. What's beat it? So then, of course, you had to explain this to her, what it means.
Right.
And so that's something I never had to do before.
Yeah, context. I know.
So now just being here and being with the social thing, the social part of things with these kids, it's really wonderful because they're learning how to interact with kids. They're actually learning language and stuff like that. Stuff that I feel like they weren't really learning as much with just therapists and stuff. And I'll be honest, when we were in Pittsburgh, I had them in the public schools in the special needs classes. It was not even remotely what.
Well,
that
was actually going to lead to my next question, because I also have experience in the public school and in the inclusion environment.
Right.
And while I have a lot of great experiences that we could talk about, it just was not the same. When they got to a certain age, it just felt like it was more like a daycare situation. They were in a corner, either watching some video, and it would be like a Lion King movie, or they would be coloring in a coloring book. They would not be actually learning. And there were no more goals that were being met. We were just hoping that they would see improvement. And part of it is because the public school system, the classrooms are so much bigger. And when it's an inclusion classroom, it's designed to be at your own pace and meet you where you're at. But at the same time, these poor teachers, they have these test levels and these scores that they're supposed to hit these marks. And if they don't, there are consequences in some cases to their jobs. So they have to find that line of how can we serve the students that need to be served, and who do we just overlook. And it's a sad thing. We were experiencing that ourselves, even here in Orleans Parish, which was a lot more equipped than the school system we came from.
Right.
We did have that same problem. So what do you think? Do you think that your children would have thrived in a typical inclusion classroom, or do you think that there was something about St. Michael that really made a difference?
Well, they actually didn't thrive. I mean, when they were in elementary school, the teachers there were wonderful teachers. I really loved them because they worked so hard with, partial. They were like a big influence in Lauren learning how to read. I mean, not that I didn't help her at home, which I did, but they did a lot with the elementary school kids, and they basically had the same teachers. So when my son went in, because they're 4 years apart in age, when he went in, the same teachers were there, and they taught him. And he obviously has a lot more difficulty in that area than she did, but they were so patient with him. And I would go in for conferences quite often with the teachers, and because I wanted to be an involved parent. And they, we talked about things that I could do at home and things that they were doing, and that, along with the therapeutic, because we had itinerant services, and they were coming to the house like 3 days a week. Yeah. So that was a good experience. But once they got into the middle school is where all the problems started.
Same with us. It just kind of fell off.
What they did was they moved my children into what they called life skills, which is the special ed.
We had that too.
So I noticed that the level of engagement, the level of involvement had gone down tremendously.
And the expectations were lower as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What they do is they base the advancement of the class on the weakest kid.
That's right. Instead of the curvature of the average, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, of course, Lauren was bored at that time, and she was starting to have trouble. And the one of the teachers, she was not a nice person. I literally had to go in, and I had to file on her because she was allowing my daughter to be abused.
I'm so sorry.
And fortunately for me, one of the aides, the Paris, was in the classroom, saw what was going on. She let me know. And that kind of caused me to become a school troublemaker because I was always in the school.
Yeah.
The idea, every time they would see me, it's like, what does she want now?
Shout out to Mildred Osborne. I think we all know who wore that hat over there. But
so anyway, Lauren moved on to high school, and same thing. They put her in the special needs class. Well, she was in school 1 week. The para called me. The same para had moved up with her, and she called me and told me that they were abusing her in the classroom. Lauren was the higher functioning kid, so therefore she was having trouble having to stay down at the level that they needed. So they were, what she told me was that they were pinching her and yelling at her. So I took her out of school. 2 years I taught her at home.
And about what year was this?
This was the year 2016.
So I've noticed that somewhere between like 2014 and about the pandemic, the start of the pandemic, I've noticed a shift in as far as public school, as far as training is concerned, and as far as what goes on in classrooms. Right. I have noticed that there is a lot more care that is put into, and this is partly to let other parents who are in the public school program, we hear the nightmare stories all the time, and we also have our own experience, but at the same time, we have seen the progress and the growth in this environment to protect children like ours and families like ours, because we do deserve that power and that voice. And there is a lot of things that are broken in our education system, which is why we're so grateful for an opportunity like St.
Michael's. And I tell you what, that really, I have such peace of mind having my children here, because the biggest problem with children with special needs being in the public schools, the ones who can't talk, they can't tell you what's going on.
Exactly.
And so you have to always...
And it's harder and harder to, find out what's going on when they cannot
because
tell
they
you.
have this what do you call it? It's like an unspoken code that you don't talk.
Correct.
So unfortunately for the para that told me what was going on with Lauren, she got persecuted big time because they didn't take a rocket scientist for them to figure out who was telling what was going on. So that kind of code of silence, it kind of makes it difficult for you to understand what's going on with your child. And here, I don't feel that. No. I feel my children
open
are
and
safe.
Welcome. We are welcome at any point in time to stop in. If we need to meet with a teacher, they are available and usually in touch same day, if email or by phone.
Right.
I have gone in on a whim and sat and talked to Dr. Sissy. Dr. Sissy's the principal, or Miss Laurel, the assistant principal, or Miss Erin, who runs the office.
Right.
I have gone in there, with the last minute, I need help, and they show up. They really do. I even was having problems getting some of my paperwork uploaded for the scholarship this year, which I've never had these problems before, and they were right there to walk me through it. That was another thing about St. Michael is having 2 children, it's a really tight budget. And even though there are scholarship opportunities, they don't fully fund the entire tuition, and we have a responsibility that's left over. We were talking about the whole reason that we're doing this talk right now, and we're shining the light on St. Michael, is the fact that it's coinciding with their annual giving campaign, where they're trying to raise money for operations and expenses associated with running this level of a school. And we wanted to shine the light on that and try to encourage the giving this season in particular, because as inflation keeps going up, expenses keep going up, tuition is rising too. But the great people at St. Michael and the leadership here, they do not want to pass these expenses on to us. They know exactly how hard it is for us to get by as it is, and they're trying everything they can to mitigate and offset. We also have, private patrons who are incredibly supportive. I could name names, but I'm not going to. They're just so intricately involved, and you can really tell the faith that's in this community. It is a Catholic school, but the Christian community is so prevalent. The support within New Orleans, even in the secular community, we have such a great foundation here and so much support that I'm truly, it blows my mind when I share my testimony and people say, how did you get to New Orleans? And I say, well, really, I think God brought us here for St. Michael. And for my daughter, she's had tremendous opportunities with her schools and her programs that she's been able to be a part of. So, I really do think that whatever it was that we thought we were coming to do, this was totally a God thing, and it had everything to do with this wonderful place right here. So.
I agree. So I'm really happy with what I'm seeing going on with my children. I'm happy with their progress. I'm happy with the work that these teachers are doing.
Incredible.
The school. I mean, it's worth every penny we pay.
It is, absolutely. I wish I could do so much more.
Oh, so do I. I really wish I could. And I see what they do with these children. I see their dedication. And even some of the teachers who have retired,
and they come back.
I know Miss
Barbara's I love Miss Barbara. She was Kalijah's first teacher. So
yep.
They're about to start their field day, their annual field day program, and we are kind of in the middle of their way. So I do want to wrap it up, but I wanted to ask if you have any advice for special needs families, especially the ones with younger children who may be in a place where they don't have a program like St. Michael and they're not able to move. What would your advice to be? How can they advocate the best for their children? And do you know if there are any ways that they could request resources?
The first thing I would do is, like I did in Pittsburgh, you check with other parents that have special needs children to find out what type of programs they have available.
Social media is a great tool for that.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. And I'm on a number of sites for special needs. There's one that's called Designer Jeans, but it's spelled with a G.
I love that.
Oh,
I'm gonna look it up.
That's such a wonderful.
Writing it down.
And it's called Designer Jeans, and that's for people with special needs.
Cool. I love that.
And I really enjoy talking to so many of the people because they're knowledgeable. They can tell you a lot about what's going on in your area, about different types of programs that you can get into. Mm-hmm. And another good place to check is in the Children's Hospital. For instance, they have, for children that have Down syndrome, in Pittsburgh, they had an area in Children's Hospital called the Down Syndrome Center. And every year you would bring your children in, they would evaluate, they would give you ideas about programs, they would tell you what you could do at home to help your children. And like I said, just collaborate with other parents because, the organizations that are out there, you don't always get the info from them.
Right.
You
it's
get
the support
info
from the parents.
Yes. Exactly. So, but at home yourself, the only thing I think I could give advice on is just to work on just doing the simple things with your kids, just reading to them and taking them hand over hand through stuff like learning how to dress and
even though it is monotonous,
it is,
and explaining the same things over and over again, answering the same questions 24 hours a day.
It can be frustrating.
It does, but
repetition.
It's part of that, building that confidence. And we were talking about the anxiety level. Some of that anxiety comes from just not being sure. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this what you're expecting of me? So the more we can positively reinforce and encourage, the better, and explain. And explain.
And it does. And I can promise you, it does get frustrating. And especially when you have two like we do. You're trying to tell one child and then the other child, but you have to
explain it differently.
Explain it differently, and it kind of leaves you like I was like a school teacher up at night writing stuff down, trying to plan what I was going to do for Logan, what I was going to do for Lauren, and then during the pandemic it was even tougher because then you had to do school with them. And
I loved how they handled the pandemic with school.
I did too.
Such a gift. we are not the technological people. I know, I work in media and everything. Everybody is always surprised when I tell them that, I have kind of some primitive tools, and learning how to navigate virtual school with special needs was definitely one of the most challenging things that I've ever been through.
Now,
St. Michael, they just walked us through it.
Exactly.
And it was really easier than I expected it to be. They were also one of the first places that were open for in-person early. So as soon as we could, we were back to that normal structure that our children really thrive on.
And that's what I love, because my children, even though we did school and at home, they couldn't wait to get back to school.
I know, mine too.
It was so gratifying.
They miss their friends, they miss their teachers.
Yes, and it was the funniest thing about my children is that they're competitive with each other.
I know.
So the fun thing was that the teachers used to laugh their heads off. They would get out of the car and they would knock each other in the head, bumping each other, trying to get through who was going to get through the door first. It was always a source of amusement. That was how anxious they were to get to school.
Yeah,
and
that says a lot about this place, that they were excited to come back in such a fearful time.
Exactly. And I just can't see my children being anywhere else. And Lauren has moved into the adult program now. Logan will be moving out of the upper school and into the adult program in like another, I think he has one more year. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking to try to keep them here as long as I can, because they're safe here, and they're still learning, even though
and growing
in the adult programs.
Wow.
So I would recommend the school to anybody. I mean, I've told everybody that I can think of, even back in the therapists that we were seeing in Pittsburgh. I still talk to a couple of them.
Me too. I still talk to my Georgia friends and families and teachers and everything. And so, I have a friend in Georgia that is dreaming of putting together a St. Michael-like school.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they were talking about up there. And see, what the thing is that when we were trying to come down here, St. Michael's wasn't even on the radar up there.
That's true.
So
that was a God thing. I'll share my testimony in another time, but it was truly no doubt in my mind that the reason we were even brought here at all, from my next door neighbor to my job to everything, this has just been, everything here has been for our children.
Yes.
And for planning for their independence, and all of these tools that I knew we needed, but I didn't know how to get. And then how do I equip them? Because it is hard enough as a mom. We are trying to figure it out as we go. So
that is so true.
But that's what Grace does. Grace, and the other thing I would say is letting God direct your steps, especially in parenting. As soon as I submitted it all to Him, everything just lightened. The load was easier, and He took over. And at 22 and 18, I can see, 19 now actually, I can see how God has really set them up, and I know you have too.
I certainly
Tammy,
have.
thank you so much for talking with me today. I apologize. I told her this was going to be short, but I have enjoyed this conversation, and I think people are going to get a lot out of it. So thank you everybody for watching, and if you would like to support St. Michael's Special School, remember any amount helps, and you're donating directly to the school. This is not Christian Mix. You can find a link on the front page of our website to take you directly to their annual giving campaign. This is a 501c3 organization, so you can bet that you can write this off on your taxes. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for supporting the Mix.